Okay guys, today I'm going to show you how you can create some kind of cool posters with color as a background and with using multiple shapes as a compound path, and then also rotating the entire layout. So there's a lot you can do in InDesign. Let's get started. We're going to make a new file, and we want this to be an 8.5 by 11, so that's already set up there. If it's not, just click on print and it will show up. So we want an 8.5 by 11 document. Now let's go over here. We only want one page. The columns we're not going to set up because that's not going to be helpful to our layout today. But the margins we do want set up. Now remember, that's the margin is the space inside. And we don't want 0.5. That's pretty generous. Let's just go down to 0.25 because things might get kind of tight. And because this is a print document, we need to put bleed in, and the minimal bleed that you need is 0.125. You can go beyond that, but every printer requires at least that. Now we want a yellow background behind this entire poster, and the best way to do that is to get the layers panel open. If it's not open, you can find it by looking under window. Open that up and hit plus at the bottom of that panel, and we're going to name that bottom layer background. By putting the background on its own layer underneath, you can get it out of the way of all the art that you're putting on there so it doesn't get tangled up when you select it. And also you can make sure it's behind everything. So I'm going to make a rectangle frame tool box that goes at least to the bleed, and you can go beyond it. That's what I've done. Now to create a color for this document, I don't want to use any of these colors, so I'm going to go to New Color Swatch. And I know I don't want any cyan or black. I do want a little bit of magenta and some yellow. So I'm going to take yellow all the way over. And you can kind of see the color there as you're doing it. So I would say, I want it pretty yellow. That'll work. So now I have my background color, and I'm going to go to that layers panel, and I'm going to click just to the right of that eyeball so it's locked. Then I'm going to jump back onto the top layer, and you can name this if you want. Graphics, it doesn't matter, as long as the background layer is on its own. So now we're going to make those shapes that we're going to use to put the image in. So I'm going to use the rectangle frame tool again, and I'm going to start right around the edge of the page. We can always resize this, so I think it should go about 8.5 inches wide, and I'm going to say maybe 1.7 or something like that high. And let's move this up a little bit. And I want 3 more, and I want them perfectly even spaced from this object. So the best way to move around objects is to go to Edit, Step and Repeat. And the settings will be whatever the last settings were used for Step and Repeat. But for ours, we already have 1 box. We want 4, so we're going to repeat it 3 times. And we actually don't want it to move horizontally, so I'm going to put 0. And then for the vertical, I can go a little bit more. I just want a little bit of minimal space between those. So I would say 1.8 or maybe 1.9 might look kind of cool. And now what I want to do is I just want to offset 2 of these. So I'm going to click on the second one. I'm going to hold the Shift key, which allows me to select more than one object. I'm going to grab the 4th one. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, which keeps things in line, and I'm going to move that over about that far. So now I have these 2 boxes aligned to the left and these 2 aligned kind of in a tab over. So before I join these all together, let me just show you that if I wanted to place an image in here, I could only place it in one of these compound paths at a time. So I could place it there, but it doesn't use that space very well. However, if I join all of these together, and I'm just going to put it in the selection tool, I'm just going to drag my cursor over all 4 boxes so that it selects all 4. You could also click on one, hold the Shift key, and then click on the 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th. So now if I go to Object, Paths, and say Make a Compound Path, now all 4 of those shapes are joined into one shape. And so when I place an object, it goes in all of them. And it's just like a regular image box in that it holds the image, and when I click on the image itself, I can move it within the box. And if I click on the box, then I can move that also. So I'm just going to make him a little bit larger by holding the shift key and dragging this corner. And I'm going to move him down. I want to see his face a little bit more. Then I might alter that a little bit as we move on, but right now that'll totally work. Now I need to put type in here. So I'm going to make a type box at the top, and I'm going to write KLON Presents. To make that a typeface for this one, some kind of sans serif, preferably something condensed. So on the type character panel right here, you can use filters, and you can filter it as sans serif, which is this classification, and then we want it to be condensed, which is one of the property classifications. So you can use anything that works that's in your type collection. I'm going to use Helvetica Neue, which is just a newer version of Helvetica, and I'm going to go condensed bold. Now right now this is 12 point, so I can just click this up, it's probably the easiest way, and keep going until it looks like it's big enough. So I'm going to take that to about 28. Now you can see that within the type box it's sitting along the left side, so I want to center that. I can do it here on the panel, properties panel, or I can do it up top. Now it is centered in the box, but is that box centered on the page? So when I click on the box, I'm going to go to the properties panel where a line is docked in that. That's what makes the properties panel so convenient. And I'm just going to click on Align Center. And now the type is aligned, and so is the box. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to make a date that sits right here that says July 30th. So since I already have this typeface, I'm just going to hold the Option or Alt key and drag this over and copy it. Just makes it easier. And what that needs to say is July, and then I want to hit a return and put 30. These both need to go a lot bigger. So again, you can do the up, up, up. Now July is looking close to the right size, but 30 is not. The other thing you need to notice, we're at 66 point. Do you see how the leading is in parentheses? So that means that the leading just keeps automatically going up in proportion to the size, but we don't want that. We actually want this 30 to be right up on there. So now let's highlight the 30 only, and let's see if we can get it to the width of July. Now you can see without the leading on that automatic number that's in parentheses, it doesn't adjust. But now I've got the 30 right to the edge of the word July, and I can just click the leading up. I can put in enough leading so that it's bumped right to the bottom. Oop, and my type box is not big enough. So if it disappears, it's because the box that holds it's not big enough. So I'm going to highlight 30 again, and I'm going to add more leading, and that looks perfect. Now, here's what's happening. The box is bigger than it needs to be. First of all, we can make that smaller. But I want this type to be about the height of one of these boxes, right? So I'm going to bring down rulers as guides. Just by dragging from that ruler at the top, I'm going to set one right at the top of the box, and then I'm going to drag another that is the bottom. Now I'm going to set this July box right on the top ruler, but it's too big at the bottom. And I know what you're thinking, oh my God, we got to go through and do that sizing and leading adjustment all over again. But you actually don't. What you can do is power scale it. And the way you do that is you hold Shift Command. If you're working on a PC, you hold Shift Control, and you push those first, and then you grab the corner, and it will make everything sized proportionately. This is called power scaling, and it's a really good trick. Saves you a lot of time of having to kind of resize everything. So I'm just going to move that over, and now that fits perfectly. So I've got KLON Presents. That should actually go lower for now until we rotate the whole thing. So now I need the word jazz, and let's actually grab all of this. So I can either do Command A, we'll select everything except for the background, which we've locked, or Control A if you're on a PC, and then I just hold the Shift key and I move all this stuff up so I have room to put type at the bottom. So now I know that the word jazz is large, probably about like that 30. So I'm going to hold the Option or Alt key and I'm going to borrow that box. And I'm going to take out July and I'm going to spell jazz with that type. So the type box is not big enough for that, so we'll just got to make it bigger. Remember, the type has to fit in the container. And then jazz, I think we can make a little bit bigger even. So I'm just going to click the up arrow on the size, or we could power scale this. Just grab the corner, I'm going to make the box a little smaller, grab the corner, hold Shift Command or Shift Control, and just bring it down. That looks about right. So now I want to make sure that it's no taller than this column. So let's go a little bit smaller. Perfect. We want this all to go together kind of like a puzzle. So I'm just going to space it out about the same as the column above it. Perfect. And then I just have one more bit of text. And this text seems like it's going to be similar to this KLON Presents. So again, I can borrow that text. It's all styled. I'm going to hold the Option or Alt key, and I'm going to bring it down below jazz. And I can set it on that margin. And this time I'm going to make the type box go all the way to the margin on the left and right because this is a long line. I want to get everything in there. And this one's going to say North London Hotel, 8 p.m. to midnight. So this one I put at 28 point and I gave it some extra tracking also. And we want to track that out. Let's track that out to 100 or even 200. And that type should be lined up somewhere too. So we could make all this type aligned right and line it up to the right edge of the word jazz. So we can put it right there and then just move it down. Okay, perfect. So whenever you have a layout where you're going to rotate everything, which can really add a lot of drama to an otherwise kind of staid layout. So first you're going to want to lay out the type and the image and everything as much as you can. And then once you get it all lined up and set up, then you angle it because it's very hard to adjust everything when it's on an angle. So let's grab everything here. You can either drag your cursor over everything to select it, or you can say Command A for Mac or Control A for PC. Just hover in the corner and move it like this. So this is going about 11, which looks about right. Okay, so now we have everything tilted. The only problem is we're going past our margin. So this is how we can check. I'm going to put it on presentation mode just by hitting the W. As long as you're not in any key, hit the W. And you can see that KLON Presents is getting chopped off. This is getting chopped off at the bottom. This is getting chopped off here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of presentation mode, go to regular view. I'm going to grab everything here and I'm going to power scale it. Do you see how useful that power scaling is? So I'm going to hit Shift Command or Shift Control, and I'm just going to make everything smaller so that I can get it all the important information in the live area. And so you want to go up to the top, that KLON Presents. You see where your margin is? I'm going to go, the S sits right on the margin there. July 30th is just a little bit to the left. Do you see where the J is in July? That's sitting on that margin. That's the pink line. And then on the bottom, everything is within the pink line. So now we are good. If I go like that, you can see everything's where it's supposed to be. The only problem is that the image isn't filling this space over here. So let's work on that again. I'm going to go to this image and let's make it bigger. So remember, hold the Shift key and there you go. Now the image is bigger, everything is going off the page or to the edge of the page. And you can still move things within a compound path. You just have to be in the direct selection tool, which is the second arrow down. So let's say that I wanted to move this box right here so it goes off the page. I can just grab the corner, don't make it any taller. We're only dragging it out to the width, so keep an eye on that red line so it doesn't move. The image doesn't quite go all the way out there, but we can fix that. So I can grab the image There we go. And you could do the same with this one right here if you want. Oh, that's the image. So then in that case, we need to hold the shift key and go like that. Now when I'm not in preview, you can see that the image goes right to the bleed, which is this red line. All of the image has to go at least to the bleed line, which it looks like it does. Ooh, looks like it's a little bit short right there, and that's a problem. So let's take it and make it just a little bit bigger. There we go. So that's your poster design. Now I'm going to show you how to export this for print.